Long before the age of mass production, smartphones, and digital shortcuts, our ancestors mastered skills that required patience, precision, and a deep understanding of the natural world. From forging iron without electricity to weaving garments on hand-built looms, these ancient crafts were not just practical, they were reflections of culture, survival, and identity. In today's world, many of these skills have vanished or are practiced only by a shrinking group of artisans, historians, and enthusiasts. But what if these forgotten talents held the key to reconnecting us with our past, and even improving our future? The knowledge passed down through generations was often unwritten, stored in memory and movement, honed by repetition and storytelling. A single basket, piece of pottery, or carved wooden tool carried with it centuries of refinement. These were not hobbies. They were essential life skills. Crafting was survival, and every stitch, cut, or engraving served a purpose. And perhaps most fascinating is how these skills thrived in harmony with nature, using local resources sustainably long before eco-friendly became a buzzword. Today, as we face the consequences of overconsumption and technological overdependence, many are turning back to these old ways, not just out of nostalgia, but necessity. There's a growing movement to revive the wisdom hidden in ancient crafts, recognizing that there's power in simplicity, resilience in tradition, and beauty in handiwork that machines can't replicate. Through this video, we'll explore 10 incredible lost crafts and skills, their history, how they worked, and what they meant to the people who practiced them. From blacksmithing to basket weaving, from herbal medicine to hand carving, these ancient techniques are like time capsules waiting to be opened. And who knows? Maybe by the end of this video, you'll be inspired to pick up a chisel, a loom, or even a flint stone yourself. Blacksmithing, the forging of power and precision. Blacksmithing was once one of the most vital skills in any community. A good blacksmith could make everything from horseshoes to weapons, farm tools to kitchen utensils. Using only fire, metal, and hammers, blacksmiths shaped the backbone of ancient societies. This craft demanded not just physical strength, but also a delicate sense of timing and temperature. Too hot or too cold, and the metal would become useless. What's most impressive about traditional blacksmiths is how they achieved such durability and function without modern machines. They used bellows to fan fires, anvils to shape the iron, and water to harden the tools. In many ways, blacksmiths were the engineers of the pre-industrial world, solving practical problems through fire and steel. Their forges were community centers, places where work, trade, and even gossip blended in the smoky heat. As time passed and factories replaced forges, the blacksmith's role became obsolete in most urban settings. However, the resurgence of interest in handmade tools and heritage craftsmanship has kept the trade alive in certain corners of the world. Modern blacksmithing schools, medieval fairs, and online tutorials now aim to preserve these traditions. What was once common knowledge is now a niche art form pursued by passionate few. Still, the blacksmith's legacy remains strong. Every hammer blow echoes with the history of civilizations built on iron and fire. To understand blacksmithing is to understand human ingenuity at its most raw and elemental. Handloom weaving, threads of culture before industrial looms and sewing machines, every piece of cloth was woven by hand, thread by thread. Handloom weaving dates back thousands of years and was essential to everyday life. In cultures around the world, from ancient Egypt to India, Peru to Japan, intricate patterns were passed down across generations, turning textiles into stories. The craft connected the weaver to both their environment and their community. A single piece of fabric could take weeks or even months to complete, especially when dyed with natural colors from plants or insects. Patterns were symbolic, often representing lineage, status, or sacred beliefs. The materials varied: cotton, wool, silk, or flax, depending on geography and climate. But the core technique remained consistent, a patient dance between warp and weft, rhythm and repetition. As mass production grew, the appreciation for handcrafted textiles faded. Machines could mimic the look but never the soul of a hand-woven piece. Many traditional weavers abandoned their trade as factory work promised faster income. Yet in recent years, we've seen a revival, especially among sustainable fashion brands and cultural preservation movements. There's a growing demand for slow, ethical, and meaningful clothing. Today, handloom weaving is both an artistic expression and a resistance to disposable culture. Each thread speaks of heritage, and in preserving this skill, we honor the hands and hearts that came before us. Stone masonry, building for eternity. Stone masonry is the ancient craft behind the pyramids of Egypt, the cathedrals of Europe, and the temples of South Asia. Long before cement trucks and steel beams, masons carved, stacked, and shaped stone with primitive tools to create structures that still stand today. These were not just buildings, they were monuments to gods, kings, and civilizations. And the knowledge to make them was kept in the calloused hands of a few. Masons understood rock in a way few today can imagine. They knew how to judge its weight, how to split it cleanly, and how to lock stones together without mortar using only gravity and geometry. From granite to limestone, every type of stone had its rules, and breaking them meant collapse. Apprenticeships could last decades, and even then, only a handful achieved mastery. With modern construction methods focusing on speed and cost, traditional stonemasonry all but disappeared. However, in restoration projects, historical preservation, and high-end design, the need for skilled masons has resurfaced. A handful of schools now train new generations in these ancient techniques, though they remain few and far between. The grandeur of old stone structures isn't just in their size but in their silence, the quiet strength of materials shaped by human hands and meant to last centuries. Rediscovering this craft reminds us that sometimes, permanence is the most radical act. Flintnapping, the original toolmaking. Flintnapping is one of humanity's oldest crafts, the delicate yet dangerous art of shaping stone into tools and weapons. Long before metal, humans relied on rocks like obsidian, chert, and flint to create cutting edges sharper than surgical steel. These ancient blades were essential for hunting, skinning animals, cutting plants, and even starting fires. Every strike had to be precise, one wrong move and the entire piece could shatter. The technique involved striking a coarse stone with a hammerstone or antler to remove flakes and controlled angles. These flakes were then shaped further into spearheads, arrow tips, knives, or scrapers. Over tens of thousands of years, different cultures refined flintnapping into a high art. Some created symmetrical projectile points with such detail they remain museum-worthy to this day. With the advent of metal tools, flintnapping quickly lost its everyday relevance. Yet, archaeologists and primitive skills enthusiasts have revived the technique to better understand early human innovation. Knappers today are often hobbyists or experimental archaeologists who spend years perfecting their skills, sharing their work in niche communities and at historical reenactments. Flintnapping isn't just a window into the Stone Age, it's a testament to early human intelligence and the instinct to innovate with what nature provides. The next time you see an ancient arrowhead, imagine the skilled hands and quiet focus that brought it into being. Herbal medicine, nature's original pharmacy. Before the rise of pharmaceutical companies and synthetic drugs, healing came directly from the earth. Herbal medicine was practiced across every ancient civilization, from the detailed scrolls of Egypt to the oral traditions of indigenous tribes in the Americas. Plants were not just remedies, they were sacred allies. Healers spent lifetimes learning how to identify, prepare, and dose herbs to treat ailments both physical and spiritual. Every region developed its own pharmacopoeia. In China, ginseng and ginger were staples. In South America, coca leaves and bark from the cinchona tree, the original source of quinine, played crucial roles. In Europe, lavender, yarrow, and willow bark were widely used. Some treatments were shockingly effective, while others were more ritualistic, blending science and belief. As modern medicine advanced, herbal knowledge was often dismissed as folklore. But in recent decades, there's been a resurgence of interest in plant-based healing, especially as antibiotic resistance and chronic diseases challenge modern healthcare. Today, herbalists, ethnobotanists, and holistic practitioners are working to preserve and validate ancient plant wisdom with scientific research. Reclaiming herbal medicine isn't just about wellness trends, it's about restoring a relationship with nature. When you brew a chamomile tea for sleep or use aloe vera on a burn, you're tapping into a healing tradition that's tens of thousands of years old. Basketry, weaving function and beauty. Basketry might seem simple, but it's one of the oldest and most widespread crafts in human history. People have been weaving baskets for over 10,000 years, using reeds, grasses, bamboo, or tree bark. More than just containers, baskets were vital tools for gathering food, storing goods, cooking, and even fishing. The designs were practical, but also carried deep cultural significance. In Native American cultures, for instance, baskets were woven with patterns that told stories or represented spiritual beliefs. In Japan, ikebana baskets for flower arranging were elevated to fine art. In Africa, coiled baskets could be tightly sealed to carry water. Each culture developed its own techniques, twining, plaiting, coiling, suited to their local materials and needs. Today, plastic has replaced the basket in many places, and cheap imports have threatened traditional artisans. But interest in handmade basketry is returning, driven by sustainability movements and a hunger for slow, meaningful work. Workshops and cultural centers across the world now offer training in traditional basket weaving techniques, helping preserve endangered knowledge. A hand-woven basket isn't just a container, it's a piece of heritage, shaped by history, geography, and human hands. Its very structure tells a story of survival, adaptation, and craft passed from one generation to the next. Bookmaking and scriptorial art. Before the printing press, books were created one painstaking letter at a time. Monks and scribes would spend months, even years, copying texts by hand onto vellum or parchment, binding them with leather, and decorating them with gold leaf or illustrated margins known as illuminations. Bookmaking was a sacred act, often done in silence and isolation, preserving knowledge through calligraphy and craftsmanship. These early books weren't just tools for reading. They were treasured objects, filled with detailed illustrations, colorful inks, and ornamental borders. The skill of a scribe was measured in steadiness, patience, and aesthetic flair. Each book was unique, a reflection of its maker's hands and soul. For centuries, entire monasteries were dedicated to the preservation of sacred texts, science, and philosophy in this way. Once the Gutenberg press emerged in the 15th century, mass production revolutionized access to knowledge. While this was a monumental leap for education and literacy, it also marked the decline of the handcrafted book. Today, traditional bookmaking is practiced by only a few artisans, often as part of artist residencies or conservation efforts. Reviving this craft reconnects us to a time when words were precious and books were objects of wonder. In every hand-bound spine or illuminated page, we rediscover the reverence for knowledge and the artistry behind it. Pottery, the art of earth and fire. Pottery is among the most durable artifacts of ancient civilizations. Bowls, jars, and ceremonial vessels have survived thousands of years, telling stories about diets, rituals, and daily life. Ancient potters transformed humble clay into functional beauty, shaping, drying, and firing it with minimal tools and a profound understanding of their materials. Cultures around the world developed distinct pottery styles. The Greeks painted mythological scenes, the Japanese perfected raku firing, Native American potters used coil techniques and natural pigments. Each style was more than aesthetic, it revealed how a people lived, what they valued, and how they interacted with the earth. Even the placement of a handle or the width of a rim could reveal its purpose. Industrial ceramics and plastic containers eventually replaced traditional pottery in most homes. Yet pottery never disappeared, it evolved into an art form. Today, the wheel-throwing revival and appreciation for handmade goods have brought pottery back into popular culture. Ceramics classes are booming, and potters are once again respected artisans. When you hold a handmade mug or see a 1,000-year-old jar, you're not just seeing clay. You're touching a dialogue between human hands and the earth, a conversation that has shaped civilizations. Wood joinery, building without nails before power tools and industrial screws, ancient carpenters mastered the art of joinery, building complex wooden structures without a single nail. Using only wooden pegs, dovetails, mortise and tenon joints, they constructed temples, homes, and furniture that could endure for centuries. Japanese temples and Chinese pagodas are famous examples, standing tall despite earthquakes and the passage of time. The secret lay in understanding the behavior of wood. Craftsmen selected the right grain, anticipated expansion and shrinkage, and shaped each piece with unmatched precision. Joinery was not only practical, it was poetic. The joints fit together like puzzle pieces, creating strength through harmony rather than brute force. Modern construction has largely abandoned these techniques in favor of faster, cheaper materials. Yet in high-end carpentry, architectural restoration, and cultural preservation, traditional joinery still thrives. Some modern woodworkers seek out ancient methods for their beauty, silence, and sustainability. No electricity, no glue, just skill. Reviving joinery teaches more than craftsmanship, it teaches patience, respect for materials, and the value of doing something the right way, even when it takes longer. In a world of quick fixes, it's a powerful lesson. Tanning and leatherwork, skin to shelter. The transformation of raw animal hides into usable leather was a vital skill for ancient societies. Leather was used for clothing, armor, shoes, containers, and tents. Tanning, the process of making leather durable and rot-resistant, was a complex, multi-step operation. It involved soaking hides in natural solutions, often made from tree bark, urine, or animal brains, then drying, stretching, and softening them by hand. Each culture had its own tanning methods. The Romans used large vats of tannin-rich liquids. Indigenous North Americans practiced brain tanning, which made exceptionally soft and durable hides. In the Middle Ages, tanneries were often located outside city walls due to their intense smell. Despite the hard labor and pungent processes, tanning was indispensable. With the Industrial Revolution, chemical tanning replaced traditional methods, speeding up production but introducing pollutants and losing the tactile connection with the craft. However, a resurgence in heritage leatherwork has brought back interest in vegetable tanning and handmade leather goods. Artisan shoemakers, belt makers, and bag crafters are now reviving the old ways, one hide at a time. In every piece of hand-tooled leather lies a story of transformation, from raw, natural material to something strong, beautiful, and lasting. It's a reminder that real craftsmanship starts where most people would turn away. The ancient crafts we've explored are more than forgotten skills, they are living histories encoded in hands, habits, and heritage. Each technique tells a story not just of how things were made, but of how people lived, loved, fought, healed, and believed. These skills are blueprints of resilience, designed without machines, built to last, and deeply woven into the rhythm of life. They remind us that progress doesn't always mean faster or easier. Sometimes, the old ways hold truths that the modern world has overlooked. Today, the revival of these crafts is more than nostalgia. It's a cultural movement. As we seek sustainability, creativity, and deeper meaning, we're beginning to rediscover the beauty of slowness, the value of making something with our own hands, and the wisdom embedded in ancient techniques. This isn't just about the past, it's about building a more intentional future, using the knowledge of those who came before us. So whether you're learning to weave, carve, forge, or plant, remember, you're not just picking up a new hobby. You're continuing a story that stretches back thousands of years. You're part of a lineage of makers who believed that skill and soul go hand in hand. And maybe, just maybe, the path forward begins by looking backward, and honoring the hands that shaped our world.